First of all, like I mentioned earlier, there's a couple guys in the room that have reached out to me and I've been kind of working with a little more closely, which I'll do obviously for anyone if you just reach out. And it's basically coming down to this. This guy he's got it. He's a good trader. He's got what it takes. We've talked about this many, many times. It seems to me that the biggest problem is kind of the over trading. It's basically my number one rule here, the over trading and the trading the front side of a squeeze. And so today, and same with LEI and a couple other stocks, he'd reach out to me and say, you know what, I lost, for example, like I lost like 200 on RPRX on the front side. He's like, but then when I finally shorted it on the back side, I made 400, so I finished up 200 today. And I keep telling him the same thing. I say, man, you were doing really, really well. But as soon as you start following that rule, you're going to start doing a lot better. So I know that it takes a lot of patience and a lot of discipline, and it does, to sit here all day and you feel like you're missing out on great opportunities to short these pops. And, maybe you are shorting those. And if you're doing well and you're comfortable with that and you're staying small and you have a clear, concise trade plan and you have conviction, I'm not going to tell you not to do that, but a lot of the time, guys, I just think it's easier and it makes more sense just to short the backside of the move. So the same things that we've been doing and I've been, practicing myself is waiting for that key trend line break and then just adding on pops to the winner. And of course, every once in a while, just leaving room for that 50 EMA retest. So the one spot that I liked and I took this morning was right in here. And it was right after it had a lot of trouble around 45. So right around 345, it was really struggling in that area. And earlier today, I had this line up there at 45. And you can see that all morning long, it was trending nicely on this 9 EMA line. It was holding dips and very powerful. So like I said, this is where a lot of people are losing their money is they're just trying to short these areas in here. And I'll do it sometimes, but when I do it, I'm always going to be covering into the wash and just kind of padding my account with scalp trades until I'm ready to make the big move. I think a lot of people, including myself, are watching 350 as an area because what I wanted to see was just to see that, just like yesterday when we were watching the half and whole dollar levels, I wanted to see it rip through and then just a lack of follow through momentum. So just like the 385 on RPRX yesterday, I wanted to see it run through 50, hit a bunch of stops and a bunch of volume come in, but then just lack of follow through so I could start in short up there. But for a lot of people, and even for myself, it is essentially going against my number one rule, which is don't short the front side. When I do it, it's because I have a lot of conviction and because I'm using a small amount of size that I'm very, very comfortable with the risk. And I'm giving it room to trade out my proper plan, my trade plan. So had it broke 50 would have been a great place to enter for some of you, depending on your trade plan. But for most people, just waiting for the backside, it's going to be better. It's going to be less stressful, and it's going to give you more clear, defined stop out areas. And it's going to be just a lot easier to get what you want out of the trade. I mean, of course, you're going to miss a lot of the move, but at the same time, like, who's to say that you wouldn't have stopped out in this last dirty sort of squeeze it had just before it broke down? I mean, this is extremely tricky. I mean, you can imagine that there was a lot of people that were shorting this over the lunchtime period only to, actually get stopped out right up here before it finally faded. So you can avoid all of that pain and frustration and headache, especially this lunchtime shop. I was really staying away from that, but just waiting for that clear. And when it finally broke trend, it is truly on the backside. Once I see that lower high, this is where I'll usually start. Keep the risk low, keep the shares low, add to the winner, and then you can just let it ride. It takes a little more patience, but it's worth it in the end. So this guy that I'm working with pretty closely, again, he had he has really good days, but the days that he has bad days is because he's shorting the front side of the move. So I'm an advocator lately of just waiting for the back, unless it's a usual not a float rotation play, not like this was a bit of a unique situation, you know, like the amount of volume that it was doing. It just wasn't our usual, and it's day 2. So it's a bit different than our usual, just morning spike, gap up and fade, which is one of my favorite plays. So I'm definitely a lot more cautious in these ones. But yeah, what I was going to show you was the spot that I liked before I went off on that tangent. So this is what I thought. And it was the lower high. After it failed to break 50, it looked weak up here. I wanted to short in here, but I missed the opportunity. It went without me. So instead of chasing it, as we never do here, don't chase, don't overtrade. I waited for the move back up and scaled into that 30 lower high right there. Actually, the first one right there. And it didn't take much size, but I just got in there. See, the frustrating thing with this stock is a lot of the time that'll be a great entry. Then what you're looking for is you want to see a lower high here. Of course, when I didn't see the lower high there, I got on the defense again and got ready to cover. And then it looked like it was going to work. And then I think I added a little bit in there. And then, of course, it reclaimed and I got out. And then we started having problems with order entry. So it totally kind of screwed up the whole day. Unfortunately, for anyone that was using a broker that was having trouble with order entry. So orders were getting rejected. People were getting stuck in positions. Once it finally became stable again, the borrowers were no longer available. So you got to roll with the punches in this business. You know, there are going to be times where stuff like that happens, and that's just the way it is, you know. One thing I don't really like is when I notice sometimes people will message me and say, oh, well, I don't have shorts. And then it sounds like they're getting really negative and down. But like I always said, guys, like I said earlier today, is that if you find yourself in a negative mood, if you find yourself for some reason you're not optimistic, you're not feeling like, you know, good about the day or good about the trades or whatever it is, if you're in a fight with your spouse, if there's something going on in your personal life, you shouldn't be trading unless you're in the right mind frame. It's easy to lose sight of the big picture and to lose focus on the ultimate goal when there's so much emotion involved. And especially up here, there's just so much emotion. I mean, so this morning, we were just praying that this stock would get back above $3. And remember at one point today, it really didn't feel like it was going to. Because, well, pre-market, it looked gorgeous. It looked perfect for a gap up play. So I was praying that this would get back over $3. And you can see this nice, after hours yesterday, I started to grind up. I sat here and watched it. I was eating a steak and watching it. And then today we got a little gap up, some higher lows this morning. It was looking really good. And then it broke the trend right there, put in a lower high, and it dumped. And I think a bunch of people probably shorted in there. And then I was thinking, oh, well, this is what was happening was there was some Twitter bashing going on, and people were getting involved early in this one pre-market. And then when the market opened, it started to rip and it caught a trend. And remember, we were just praying that it would break 3. And of course it did. I don't think anyone was expecting, or many people were expecting it to go that far. I was kind of thinking personally that the early shorts from, 270 to even down as far as 220, these guys would get squeezed out through 320. That was my guess, was 320 was I was thinking would be a good overextended move to look for a short. But it went quite a bit further. It went up to almost 350, so 25 cents higher. But anyways, I mean, one thing, again, to keep in mind is, especially in that morning rush, is it really worth it? Is it really part of your trading plan? Is it part of your trading strategy to be shorting that area when the stock is in a pure uptrend and it's just holding the 9 EMA and it's, there's really, it's full of volume and momentum. So for me, again, the only time I do sometimes short these is when it's truly, truly overextended to the point where I'm just like, well, I'm willing to take the risk here because 8 out of 10 times this is going to pull back at least to the trend, and I'll play that for a scalp. So there's exceptions that I make, but it's more of an advanced technique. For a lot of you guys, I think the smart thing to do is wait for the trend break. Remember your goal, remember your plan. So on the 1 minute, the short-term trend break is right there. But once it reclaims, you really have to be disciplined enough to get out, take your small gain or take your flat trade. you don't hold it, especially if it starts to break out through highs. You don't want to be sitting in there and averaging down on a loser is especially a good way to blow up a small account when you're getting started. So don't start playing that game. It's just one that it's just really hard to win with a small account. It only takes one mistake to kind of ruin your account. So just don't get in that game, in my opinion, if you're a new trader working with a small account. You're looking to nail the entry or bail. And I think the best, safest way to do that is just to wait for the backside. So if you're going to look at a 1 minute chart and you want to try to pick like a more of a front side trend reversal, then I guess you can try something like that or something like that, or look for that bear flag or short wedge pattern. But in a stock like this, it's just, remember we were saying it's so crowded, there's so much volume, there's so much emotion and momentum behind it, it's going to be tricky. And so today did prove to be difficult unless you really nailed the entry. And so what I'm going to recommend is just remember to focus on your goal. Your goal is to have longevity in trading. Your goal is to make a living from trading. Your goal is to learn and grow as a trader every day. So instead of getting negative about not having shorts or getting negative about taking a loss here or there, you're going to look at it in a more positive light. You're going to say, well, there are no shorts, but I'll get the next one. Or there are no shorts, so I'm just going to focus on where's a good place to maybe get long for a squeeze. But ultimately, you're focused on your goal, which is to make a paycheck, take it from the market every day. And of course, it's not going to happen every single day. Everyone takes losses. I guarantee you today, a lot of very good traders took losses on this stock today. But what I wanted to just show you was that, a lot of the time with the patience, just wait for that backside. You all know we're looking at a 5 minute chart. And once that's confirmed, it's a lot less stressful and there's still a lot of money to be made there, guys. And at least you can, manage your risk properly, know what you're risking. And sure, it would have taken a whole lot of patience today, a lot of patience, but patience is a big part of trading. One of the things that people tend to ignore about trading, which is such a crucial aspect, is everyone's focused on how do I make money, where do I make money, and what are the setups and what are the strategies. But one of the strategies is, and one of the most important ones is, when not to trade. And for me, this whole area this afternoon, remember I drew the line at 3, I drew the line at 3:30. This is the lunchtime chop. It's back and forth all lunch. It was supporting $3. It was looking kind of fishy. I wasn't really surprised to see that squeeze. And I also wasn't surprised to see the failed follow through and then a total, I'm not saying that I predicted it. I didn't predict that, but I definitely wasn't surprised. We see stuff like this all the time. So, yeah, one of the strategies is being patient, being consistent with your strategy and knowing when to hold it, when to fold it. Sometimes having no position is the best position, right? So, and we talked about, JB, my trading partner, the moderator in the room, JB, the best, one of the best traders I've ever met. Honestly, this guy is incredible. He is patient. He's disciplined. He has a system. Like I said, if there's 10 trade setups that meet his criteria, he'll trade 10. If 0 meets his criteria, he makes 0 trades. Every single trade that he makes, he's a shining example of how to properly manage risk and trade your plan. Every single trade that he makes has a stop loss. So remember earlier he was long somewhere down here in the low 3s and his plan was to stop off 95. And like I said, pretty much every trade that I've heard him call, and he's made very few calls, but he's a man of few words, but he's a man of wise words, The guys that make 40 calls a day, of course a few of them are going to be right, but it's the guys that are quiet, and then when they have ideas, they're really good ideas. That's JB. So I always pay attention to his calls, and we always bounce our ideas back and forth off each other, and it really helps. So yeah, congrats on some really good trading this week, JB. And just keep going forward, guys. Remember, just look at the big picture. Remember your goal. Try not to get too emotional in this area. Try not to get that fear of missing out and that, I need to get in right now because I want to nail the top and add to the winner. A lot of the time, sure, you can do that. But just imagine how much easier it is to play the backside. And just remember that there's still lots of meat left on this bone. I mean, look at this. Put it on a bigger picture. Look at your hourly chart and take a look at the big picture on the stock. You know, so we finally actually broke hourly chart trend here, and I guess we'll find out tomorrow if this is going to continue or not. But I think there's a lot to be learned from this chart today. So, and of course, there's very little else going on in the market today. So, a lot of focus on the stock and a lot of good commentary throughout the day. However, not a whole lot of easy opportunities. So it was a bit more tricky. We do love the easy opportunities, you know, the morning gap fade, stuff like that. This was not that play. So yeah, I hope that helps. Just remember to be positive, and going into tomorrow, whatever you learn from today, you're just going to be that much wiser. And yeah, as always, just reach out to me if you want a little extra help. If you want, you know, like JB said, I think that it's important to document your trades. So we do have a guy in the room here that makes spreadsheets, and you can, if you want, you can use those spreadsheets to document your trading. Find out, are you making more money on the long side? Are you making more money on the short side? Here's a good one. Are you making more money on the front side, or are you making more money on the back side? You know, like I said, a lot of the time I'm good at nailing entries on these. I've gotten to the point where, you know, a lot of the time I can tell in the price action when things start to weaken up, or I can get like a couple cues from market makers. But ultimately, yes, a lot of the time I'll make more money because I got in on the front side. But then it's kind of like that. The couple of times that you get caught over trading can really, I don't know, just make it more stressful and almost not worth it when it's just so much easier to play the back. So let me know if you have any questions about that, guys. Going forward into tomorrow, as far as tomorrow's watch list goes, we'll probably just play it more by ear because there's so little going on today. I don't have a whole lot on tap so far, but RPRX will keep on watch for sure. This VRNG is starting to get kind of interesting. It's VRNG. It's been fairly bullish and it's starting to, it looks like a strong close today, so we'll keep an eye on that one. And I think that overall this week was a bit of a slower week, and then for that reason, everyone was just all over this RPRX and just getting really emotional about really wanting this big trade. It's easy to get that way, you know, sitting all week being patient, then you're just dying for this to get over 3, and then you take way too much size way too early, and it can cause a big disaster. So just remember to stay patient, stay humble, and remember your goal. Remember to always trade your plan and follow your rules. So for the guy that I was working with more closely, I told him my suggestion was, hey, you know, really nice job. Obviously, we still need you to stop trading the front side, and you'll do much better. But what I'd like him to do, and maybe what I'd like you to do is, and I've been doing this, is I keep these tips for account building right on my screen, so they're staring me in the face every day. So before I start to decide to chase or decide to overtrade, that's staring me in the face, and I'm saying, wait, you know, don't do that. That's not why I'm here. This is not how I'm going to consistently make money in the market. Even if it does work 1 or 2 times, in the long run, it's just going to teach you a bad habit. And the whole point of live stream trading is to get good habits developed early on in your trading. To, you know, the longer that you develop bad habits and keep them going, the harder it is to break them. So just early on, I want you to identify, you know, if you're a new trader and you've been around for 2-3 months, identify right now, today, on a notepad, what are 3 things that you do well? What are 3 things that you need work on? So is it chasing? Is it overtrading? Is it not sticking to your stop loss or your trade plan? Are you averaging down on losers? Find out what those are, write them down on a notepad, and focus really hard on correcting those bad habits early on. And I think you'll notice a big improvement going forward in your trading. And for me, my number 1 has always been patience. And the reason why I talk so much about patience and discipline is because it was the hardest one for me in my first 3 years. And it's one that I feel like I've accomplished, but it still needs work daily. Like I still need to constantly force myself to be patient. So it was really like, you know, all lunch hour, you guys were commentating in RPRX, and I was really trying hard to stay away from it because I know that trading the lunch grind is not a profitable time of day for me, generally speaking, and I'll do better. And a lot of you guys will probably do better if you just stay away from that action.